If you're thinking about buying a jointer for your shop and you have a limited budget, you need to watch this tool review of the Bauer 6-inch benchtop jointer from Harbor Freight. Up until recently, the one thing I didn't have was a jointer. And one of the main reasons was the jointer's expensive. I didn't think I would use it enough, and it takes up room. There's a Harbor Freight store near my hardwood dealer, and I stopped there the last time I bought a supply of wood. They had a benchtop jointer on sale for less than $300, and at that price point, I was willing to give it a try. Some assembly is required, and the manual that comes with the tool outlines the steps needed to assemble the jointer. However, there are only about 6 poor quality black and white photos, and the written instructions also leave a lot to be desired. I may have used a few naughty words while assembling the jointer. I looked online for any helpful information and found one video that provided some assistance. The person who published that video echoed my comments about the manual's general uselessness. I got about halfway through the process before I gave up and let the machine sit idle for 2 weeks, then returned to it. My original intention was to include a video of me putting this together, but there was so little usable footage that I scrapped that idea. There was one easy part to the assembly, the carrying handles at each end. They make the machine portable, but it's heavy and I don't plan on moving it often, although the machine's current location may be temporary. I was pleasantly surprised by one thing after I unboxed the machine, and that was the Cutterheads. It features square, replaceable Cutterheads, so if you nick one, simply remove the bolt holding it in place with an Allen wrench, turn it 90 degrees, and replace the bolt. They even supply some extra Cutterheads and an Allen wrench with a handle. At this price point, I was expecting straight blades, not these. Let me point out the problematic part of the assembly, the mechanism that holds the fence in place. As you can see, the parts are black, and that is one reason why the black and white photos were not helpful. There's a piece that slides back and forth, which in turn moves the fence in and out. There's another assembly that adjusts the angle of the fence relative to the jointer's bed. Most of the time, you'll want that set at 90 degrees. Both of these mechanisms have a handle that turns to loosen, tighten, and lock them. The handles have threads on one end. The instructions tell you to insert the handle, but they're of different lengths, and it wasn't clear to me which handle went where. Of course, I installed them incorrectly and had to go back and correct my error later. So let's move on to an actual look at and review of the machine. The on-off switch is located on the right side and features a removable part that secures the jointer in the off position. That's been standard on machines for as long as I can remember. As long as I can remember, unfortunately, varies from about 2 hours ago to sometime in the 1960s. Large swaths of that time are apparently lost forever. The blade depth is adjusted by a wheel located on the far right side of the machine. I could probably make a joke about that as well, but I avoid politics on this channel. There's a little locking mechanism you can engage once you've set the depth to your liking. So that part is self-explanatory. You will have no problem figuring that out. A warning, I'm going to turn this on just so you know, but it's a lot quieter than, it's not as noisy as some machines. This is a piece of 4/4 oak, and as you can see, I purchased my lumber with rough edges. When I need a clean edge, I run the board through my table saw. If I need 2 clean edges, I'll run it through twice. It takes a bit of time to do that, and if you've ever tried to edge joint boards run through a table saw, you know it doesn't joint the edges perfectly. That's the strength of a jointer. The first time I ran this piece through the jointer, it did not go smoothly. I took a few minutes to check everything out and discovered that when I was demonstrating how the fence could be moved, I had set it back in place such that the fence was past the blade. This meant that the blade was only cutting a portion of the board's width. I needed a wide, half-inch thick board to make the deck for an aircraft carrier model, so I was able to put the jointer to a practical test. The poplar had rough edges just like the oak I showed before. I'd already run the first piece through, and I'm showing the second one here. I laid the 2 boards side by side on my workbench, and the seam looked perfect. I retrieved my pipe clamps and a couple of long F-clamps and performed the glue-up. The joint was seamless. If you'd like a closer look at the glue-up, I'll leave a link to my aircraft carrier video on the screen.
To summarize, based on my limited experience with this jointer so far, I believe it's worth the price tag. The assembly instructions are difficult to follow, but once you put it together, it's an excellent addition to the shop. I love using it to joint the edges of a board before I start any other operations. As always, I crave your comments and I reply to every one. A like also helps me to grow the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified every time I've published a new video. In the meantime, suggestions for what to watch next are on the screen now.